Friday was supposed to be routine. I had a contractor meeting at 5:30 that got pushed to next week, which left me with an unexpectedly free evening. Instead of going to the gym or K*ling time at the office, I decided to surprise Layla. I stopped at a little Italian place we both liked, Marco's off Sycamore, picked up some gnocchi with pesto for her, lasagna for me, and a slice of tiramisu we'd usually split. There was a time when surprises like this felt exciting. I used to do this kind of thing more often: flowers, random dinner dates, small things. Lately, though, we'd both been so caught up in work and routines that we were practically coexisting, more like roommates than husband and wife. I thought maybe this dinner could cut through the fog a little. Spark something again. I pulled into the driveway a few minutes after 6. The sun was still hanging low, casting a warm glow across the neighborhood. Everything looked normal at first. The recycling bin was out front, porch light hadn't come on yet. But then my eyes caught something odd. The bedroom curtains upstairs were wide open. That might sound like nothing, but I noticed it instantly because Layla never did that. Never. She was the kind of person who closed the curtains before even getting undressed to change clothes, even when the neighbors were miles away. I could count on one hand the number of times I'd seen those curtains open past sunset in the last 5 years. I turned off the engine and sat still, my hand still on the key, staring up at the window like it would explain itself. A few seconds passed. Then I saw him. A man. He stood up from the bed. Not beside it. Not near it. From it. From our bed. He wasn't shirtless, not that I could tell in the fading light, but I could make out the figure clearly: tall, broad shoulders, dark short hair. I didn't recognize him. And that might have been the strangest part. Layla and I didn't have many guests. In fact, we hadn't had anyone over in weeks, not since the last game night with her coworkers. He stood for a moment, backlit by the overhead light, and then it all went dark. Curtains still wide open, but the bedroom light was cut. My heartbeat, steady until now, picked up speed. I was frozen in my seat, lasagna cooling on the passenger side. I didn't move, didn't even blink for a second, just stared at the window waiting to see if he'd come back. But there was nothing. After another 30 seconds or so, I opened the car door quietly, locking it with a muffled click. I didn't go through the front. Instead, I took the long way around and entered through the side door that opened to the laundry room. It sticks sometimes unless you turn the knob while pressing in. Layla hates that door. She says it screams burglar. I always told her it was charming. Inside, the house was quiet. Eerily so. No music playing, no TV on, not even her usual yoga podcast droning in the background. I placed the food on the kitchen island, then just stood still, trying to hear something, anything. Then I heard it, the shower. Not the bathroom fan. Not the faucet. The actual sound of running water and the occasional thud of a bottle being moved or dropped. Upstairs. My feet moved before I could think. I crept up the stairs as quietly as I could, the way you do when you're trying to catch a pet doing something they shouldn't be. But this wasn't that. This was different. My own heartbeat was the loudest sound I could hear now, pounding in my ears like a war drum. At the top of the stairs, I hesitated. The bathroom door was cracked, steam pouring out like a fog machine had been running in there for hours. The shower was going full blast, and I could see the outline of a figure behind the glass through the mirror's reflection. I took a step back. I didn't want to know. Not yet. I retreated downstairs, sat on the couch, and waited. About 10 minutes later, I heard the water turn off. Then the bathroom door opened, followed by soft footsteps. A few minutes passed before Layla came downstairs. She looked startled to see me at first, like I'd popped out of thin air. "Oh, you're home early," she said, her voice light, too light. There was a towel wrapped around her head like a turban, and she was wearing an oversized gray t-shirt with a faded Texatech Engineering logo on it. I stared at it longer than I should have. She had never worked at Texatech. Never studied there. Never even mentioned it as far as I could recall. None of her brothers went there. No friends. No family ties. Just a shirt. Like it had appeared out of nowhere. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Meeting got canceled last minute. Figured I'd surprise you with dinner." She smiled, stepping into the kitchen like nothing was wrong. "You're sweet," she said. "I just got back from a run, felt gross, so I showered quick." She opened the takeout bag and started unpacking the food. No kiss. No hug. No, "How was your day?" I stood there, watching her. She moved too naturally, too smoothly, like someone who'd been rehearsing for a performance. Her tone was chipper, but her movements were precise, measured, controlled. "That's a new shirt," I said casually, leaning against the counter. "Oh, this?" She looked down and tugged at it. "Yeah, got it at the thrift store. Super soft. thought you didn't like thrifting anymore, I said, trying to sound offhand. Said the stores smelled like mildew. She shrugged. This one was clean. I popped in on the way home from work earlier this week. Couldn't resist. I nodded slowly, letting the silence hang there. She didn't meet my eyes. We ate dinner in front of the TV that night, some rerun playing in the background while I picked at the lasagna and pretended everything was fine. She laughed at all the same jokes she always did, and I matched her energy, more out of self-preservation than anything else. But in my mind, the questions stacked up like poker chips. Who was the man in the bedroom? Why were the curtains open when they never are? Why turn the light off while still in the room? Why the shower? And the shirt? The damn Texatech shirt? I didn't ask those questions out loud. I just filed them away. People talk about gut instinct like it's some mystical sixth sense, but really, it's just pattern recognition. Your mind notices when something breaks the rhythm of the familiar. That night, the rhythm of my life snapped. Something cracked deep beneath the surface, and I didn't even know how wide the fracture would become. But I knew one thing. This wasn't random. And it wasn't innocent. Something was wrong. And whatever it was, it had just big asterisk N. After that Friday night, things didn't feel the same. I didn't say anything outright. Not about the man in the window or the shirt or the shower, but something in me had shifted. It was like flipping on a black light in a hotel room. Suddenly, I couldn't unsee the mess that had always been there, hidden in plain sight. I started paying attention, really paying attention. I watched Layla the way you might watch a stranger at a poker table. Smiling, nodding, but trying to read what's behind the eyes. The first thing I noticed was her phone. Months ago, she'd changed her lock screen code. It was subtle, slipped in between everyday routines. One day it was 0424, her birthday, and the next I caught her typing something longer, faster, something muscle memory had already learned. She used to leave her phone out in the open. Kitchen counter, bathroom sink, charging next to our bed. Now it was always face down or in her pocket. I hadn't thought much of it at the time. People value privacy. But now it stood out like a red flag waving in my face. Then there were the fitness friends. That started about 4 months ago. Layla began going to a new gym across town. One, she said, was more results-focused. She said it offered group training, and she'd connected with a group of women who pushed her to do better, to eat cleaner, to be more in tune with her body. I was happy for her at first. Layla had always been into fitness, but this was a new kind of motivation. More intense, more disciplined. She started wearing new outfits I didn't recognize, bought expensive leggings, new sports bras, even running shoes that cost nearly $200. Still, I thought, okay, she's investing in herself. Except I never met these women. Not once. They didn't follow her on social media. They never texted her while I was around. She talked about them often enough. Tasha said we're signing up for a 10K, or I'm meeting Morgan at the juice bar. But none of it ever felt grounded in reality. There were no pictures, no tagged posts, no shared stories. I offered to come to one of her 5K training days on a Saturday morning. Just to cheer you on, I said. Her face stiffened for a second. Just a flicker. Then she smiled, a little too quickly, and said, "Nah, it's nothing serious. Honestly, it's more for fun." I'd be embarrassed. Embarrassed. She'd never said that before. Then came the business trips. Layla worked in regional marketing for a wellness brand, so travel wasn't uncommon. She'd go to expos, training seminars, networking events. Usually, she'd text me pictures from her hotel or dinner plates or flights delayed at airports. But a few weeks before the night I came home early, she went on a retreat to Denver. I didn't think much of it until I checked our shared credit card statement. I hadn't planned to snoop. I was looking for a double charge from a hardware store. But as I scrolled, I saw a receipt from a steakhouse in Denver, dinner for two, nearly $180. That alone wasn't damning. Business dinners happen. But then I noticed the time. 9:47 p.m. That was the night she called me from the hotel room saying she'd just gotten off a Zoom call and was too exhausted to go out. 2 hours later, there was a spa charge. $264, dual aromatherapy and massage. Then a bottle of designer men's cologne. The receipt listed engraving included. Engraving. Why would she engrave cologne? Who was it for? I didn't confront her. Not then. I told myself I was being paranoid. That maybe there was a client she had to entertain. That maybe she was being nice to a coworker. That maybe she just wanted to smell the cologne herself. People did weird things sometimes. But the excuses stopped holding weight after I saw the man in the window. Everything I had brushed off now felt like puzzle pieces sliding into place. I thought back to the night she claimed she lost her robe. A soft beige one I bought her for our 3rd anniversary. She used to wear it all the time, slightly oversized with a monogram on the sleeve. One morning about a month ago, she said she must have left it at a hotel. I offered to call the place. She said no. It's just a robe, she said. I'll get a new one. The robe was gone. The cologne. The shift in wardrobe. The fitness friends that may as well have been ghosts. Her polished look when she came home late, hair perfect, makeup still flawless, even after a long day. I started keeping a mental log. Times. Patterns. Gaps. Tuesday nights, she was always late. Not dramatically so, but consistently. She'd text me around 6:30 saying going to grab a smoothie after the gym, but wouldn't be home until after 8. Once I asked for the smoothie shop's name. She said it's just this little one near the gym. I don't even know if it's got a name. I checked the area. There was no smoothie place within a mile of that gym. On Thursdays, she stopped asking me to pick her up from work. At first, it was framed as don't worry about me, but soon it became, I'm riding with Morgan or Tasha's dropping me. Always someone from the fitness crew. Never someone I met. Even our in asterisk Macy changed. That was the hardest to admit. She was still affectionate, kisses on the cheek, playful shoulder nudges, love you in passing, but the weight behind it felt absent. Like a replayed recording. Her eyes didn't linger anymore. Her touch was quicker, functional. We hadn't really been close, physically close, in weeks. I convinced myself it was stress. Then I started wondering if maybe that was the point. Maybe I was supposed to feel like I was losing her. Maybe that was part of the design, to create enough distance that I wouldn't question it when she disappeared for a weekend. Or didn't text back for an hour. Or changed her password. The phone thing really stuck with me. She used to listen to podcasts in bed, scrolling through news, or playing Sudoku. Now she turned her screen away when I entered the room. She started charging it in the bathroom. Once I reached for it to silence an alarm and she practically leapt across the bed to grab it. She said she was worried about accidentally deleting work stuff. I didn't buy it. And it wasn't like I could ask outright. I wasn't ready to become that guy, the one accusing his wife of cheating without undeniable proof. I needed to be sure. Not just for her. For me. Because if I said it out loud, it would be real. And if I was wrong, I'd be the husband who didn't trust his wife. The paranoid one. But I wasn't wrong. Everything she'd been doing, every deviation from the Layla I knew had a common thread. Secrecy. And when people start hiding parts of their life, they usually have a reason. I remember sitting at the kitchen table one night, watching her from across the room as she danced around with a glass of wine, humming along to a playlist she'd made, one filled with new songs I didn't recognize. She looked beautiful. Relaxed. Almost carefree. And for a second, I felt like I was watching a stranger. That's when it hit me. I had no idea who she was anymore. And worse, I wasn't sure she wanted me to at some point. Suspicion stops being a whisper and becomes a roar. The kind you can't quiet with logic or denial. I was past suspicion. Way past. But I still needed something concrete, evidence that didn't hide behind the curtain of you're being paranoid or you misunderstood. I didn't want to just feel betrayed, I needed to see it. Layla's phone had become a fortress. Locked. Face ID enabled. Notifications silenced. Every time it buzzed, she'd snatch it up with the urgency of someone guarding state secrets. But what she didn't realize, what most people don't realize, is that the cloud remembers everything. When we got married, we synced our devices to a shared cloud. It was meant to be convenient, shared photos, playlists, calendar reminders. Eventually, I forgot all about it. But she didn't. She got a new phone a few months ago. I remember because she made a big deal about switching carriers. New number, new plan, something about better coverage. But apparently, she never disconnected from the old cloud. That Saturday, I opened my laptop and signed in. Just to check. The folder wasn't labeled anything suspicious. Just Media Archive. I clicked it, not really expecting much. What I found made my stomach twist. Hundreds of files. Photos. Videos. Screen recordings. Some dated months back. Most of them were innocent enough, her at the gym, dog videos, screensh asterisk TS of recipes, but then there were others. I opened one photo at random. It was her, in a hotel room, wrapped in a cream-colored robe, my robe. The one she claimed to have lost in Detroit 2 months ago. The one with the small coffee stain near the hem. She was smiling, holding a glass of wine. And beside her, sprawled across the bed like he belonged there, was a man. The same man I'd seen in our bedroom window. Even in the grainy photo, I could see the same haircut. Same build. Same Texatech engineering logo on the t-shirt. His arm was draped behind her shoulders like it was second nature. I froze, staring at the screen, not sure whether to laugh or throw up. There were more. Videos. Clips taken in hotel rooms, parked cars, beach condos, places she'd told me she was traveling alone. In one, she filmed herself making funny faces in the bathroom mirror while he called to her from the other room. I could hear his voice. Casual. Playful. Domestic. In another, she was sitting on a hotel bed, looking straight into the camera. Andrew has no clue, she said with a smirk, swirling wine in her glass. None. I could say I was at a nun's retreat and he'd probably ask if I wanted him to pack my Bible. She laughed. He laughed. I didn't. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the comfort in it. The lightness. The way they joked about me like I was a gullible fool watching the wrong movie. But the worst was a photo. Not for what it showed, but what it revealed. The man, same guy, was reaching for a bottle of champagne. And on his left hand, plain as day, was a wedding band. Not just any ring. A thin, matte gold band with a subtle pattern engraved along the outside. I designed that pattern. 5 years ago, for our anniversary, I had a custom ring made for Layla. She said she wanted something unique but simple. I worked with a jeweler to etch in a line of alternating mountain peaks and ocean waves. Our honeymoon was in Colorado and Maui, 2 places she loved. That ring was supposed to be hers and hers alone. I remember the day she stopped wearing it. She said it was too tight after a gym injury. That her fingers were swelling. She said she'd wear a silicone band for workouts. She never put the original back on. And now here it was. On someone else's hand. Not impulsive. Not a one-time lapse in judgment. She didn't just fall into someone's bed one lonely night. She gave him something I made for her. Gave it to him like it had no meaning at all. That was the moment the breath left my body. I closed the laptop and just sat there. Still. Silent. I couldn't move. Couldn't think. Couldn't even cry. I just stared at the blank screen like it might offer me a do-over. There's something about seeing it, really seeing it, that changes you. Before, my doubts were sharp but scattered. After, they became a solid wall. Every photo, every clip, every laugh between them built that wall brick by brick. And the thing about walls is, they keep things out but they also keep things in. I didn't confront her that night. I didn't storm into the kitchen, slam the laptop down, and scream, "Explain this." I didn't throw her things into garbage bags or blast angry music or cry into my pillow. I printed the photos. Not all of them. Just a select few. The robe photo. The ring. The video still where she mocked me by name. I put them in a manila envelope and left it on her nightstand, just under her phone. Then I went downstairs, poured myself a glass of water, and sat in the living room with the TV off until the sun came up. I heard her wake up the next morning. The usual sounds: floorboards creaking, closet door opening, hangers scraping. Then the sound stopped. No footsteps. No movement. She'd found it. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. She came down the stairs, barefoot, holding the envelope in her hands like it might still bite her. Her face was unreadable. Not shocked. Not afraid. Just drained. She sat across from me at the kitchen table. The air between us felt like static, heavy, buzzing, impossible to ignore. "I figured you'd find it eventually," she said. That was it. No apology. No defense. Just a statement of fact. "Figured?" I said. My voice came out quieter than I expected. She looked at the envelope, then back at me. "You're not stupid. I guess I just hoped you wouldn't look." There it was again. The way she said it. Like I was being inconvenient for catching her. Like the real betrayal was me finding out. "You could have just left," I said. "You didn't have to lie. You didn't have to keep pretending." She let out a slow exhale, almost like a sigh of relief. "I didn't want to blow up everything. I thought I could manage both." "Both," I repeated. "You mean our marriage and, what, your second life?" She didn't respond. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. "How long?" She looked away. "It's been a while." I laughed bitterly. "Define a while, Layla. A few months? A year?" She paused, then nodded. "About a year." I felt something inside me tilt, like the floor had shifted under my feet. "And the ring?" I asked, my voice tight. She blinked slowly. "He liked it. Said it felt meaningful." I didn't think. You didn't think I cut her off? Yeah, that's obvious. There was a long silence. I waited for her to cry, to say she was sorry, to beg. But none of that came. She just sat there, looking exhausted, detached. I didn't do it to hurt you, she said finally. I stared at her, at this woman I'd built a life with, shared a bed with, trusted for years. You didn't care if it did. And in her silence, I found my answer. This wasn't about a spark fading or a mistake she regretted. This was premeditated, maintained, nurtured, a secret garden she watered while our relationship withered. I got up and walked away. Behind me, I heard her voice, small, tired. I didn't think it would end like this. Neither did I. But now there was no going back. When I walked out of the room that morning, I didn't slam the door or make a scene. I just walked, past the staircase, past the hallway where our wedding photos used to hang, and into the guest room where I closed the door quietly and sat down on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking, but not from anger. It was something colder, a kind of finality settling into my bones. I didn't cry. That surprised me. I thought I would, but there was nothing. Just a dull pressure behind my eyes and an ache in my chest like someone had pressed a thumb into the center of my heart and held it there. Downstairs, I could hear Layla moving around. Slowly, not frantically, not panicked, just slow and deliberate, like someone resetting the pieces on a chessboard after a quiet loss. No slamming cabinets. No footsteps rushing toward me to apologize. Just the faint sound of the coffee maker sputtering to life. She still made coffee, as if everything was normal. I stayed in that room for nearly 2 hours. I stared at the wall, my mind blank. Every time I tried to piece together how we'd gotten here, it felt like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces. I had loved this woman. I had built a life with her. And somewhere along the line, she'd built an entirely separate one without me. Eventually, I came out, not because I was ready, but because I needed to eat something. I walked into the kitchen to find her leaning against the counter, scrolling on her phone. Her hair was still damp from a shower. She wore that same Texatech shirt like it meant nothing, like it wasn't a symbol of everything I just uncovered. She didn't look up when I walked in. "You hungry?" she asked, like nothing had happened. "No," I said. My voice was low, almost hoarse. "I'm not." She set her phone down. "You should eat something." "I'm fine." She nodded and picked the phone back up. No apology. No tension. Just quiet acceptance. Or was it resignation? "Do you even feel bad?" I asked finally, the question coming out sharper than I meant it to. She set the phone down again, slower this time, and looked at me. Her expression was unreadable, calm, almost serene, like a woman who'd already lived through the storm and come out dry. "I don't know what you want me to say," she replied. "How about the truth?" I said. "How about something real for once?" "I told you the truth," she said. "You found it. What else is there? You don't feel anything?" She looked at me for a long moment. Then she shrugged. "Of course I feel something. I just don't think it's what you want me to feel." I laughed. An ugly, bitter sound. "So that's it? Years together, and this is your response? No tears? No guilt?" "I'm tired, Andrew," she said. "I've been tired for a long time." "Tired of what? Me?" "No," she said quickly. "Just tired of pretending. Tired of trying to be the version of myself you think I am." My jaw clenched. "You mean the version who doesn't lie? Who doesn't cheat?" "Yeah. I guess that was asking too much." She didn't flinch. "You think this happened overnight? You think I just woke up one day and decided to betray you? It wasn't like that." "Then tell me," I said. "Help me understand. Because right now all I see is a woman who gave up everything for a man she barely knows." She looked down at her coffee, swirling the mug absent-mindedly. "It wasn't about him," she said. "It was about me. About who I became when I stopped feeling like your wife and started feeling like your obligation." That hit harder than I expected. "Obligation?" "Yeah," she said, looking up. "You stopped seeing me a long time ago, Andrew. I was just someone you lived with. We stopped talking. We stopped doing anything together. and you didn't even notice. You could have said something, I said. You could have told me you were unhappy. I did, she snapped, in 100 different ways. But you only heard what you wanted to. The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed, trying to hold myself together. So you decided to fix that by sleeping with someone else? She exhaled slowly. It wasn't about fixing anything. It was about feeling like a person again. There it was. The indifference. The detachment. It was worse than rage, worse than cruelty. Because it meant she'd already mourned this. She'd already buried us. You know what hurts the most? I said. It's not even the cheating. It's that you didn't care enough to end it before it got there. You let me keep loving you while you faded out of the picture. Her eyes glistened for a second, just a flash of something close to regret, but it passed quickly. I didn't know how to stop it, she said, and by the time I did, it was already too late. You could have told me, I said again, quieter this time. You owed me that much. I owed you honesty, yes, she said, but I didn't know how to be honest with someone who always looked away. That stung, because maybe there was some truth to it. I had pulled away, in small ways. We both had, but I never walked out. I never gave her something that belonged to me and handed it to someone else. You don't get to rewrite this, I said. You made your choice. You betrayed me. I know, she said, and I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking for understanding. I'm just telling you the truth. Too little, too late. She nodded. I know. We stood in silence for a long time after that. The kind of silence that isn't just absence of sound, but a vacuum where everything used to live, hope, connection, love, gone. Eventually, she picked up her mug and left the room. No tears, no fight, just walked away like she was done performing. And maybe she was. That night we didn't speak. She stayed in the bedroom. I stayed in the guest room. I stared at the ceiling for hours, wondering how two people could share a home, a history, 1,000 tiny inside jokes, and still feel like strangers on a subway. In the morning, she made eggs. 2 plates. Set one on the table across from hers. I didn't touch it. She shrugged, ate hers in silence, and left for work without another word. I didn't follow her. I didn't call. I didn't text. What was there to say? She had shown me everything I needed to know. Not with screaming or denial, but with her silence, her weariness, her chilling calm. She wasn't sorry. She was just done pretending. And that hurt more than any confession ever could. I didn't eat the eggs she made that morning. I stared at the plate until it went cold, then scraped it into the trash and washed the dish out of habit. I don't know why that detail sticks with me. Maybe because it felt like the last part of the old rhythm of playing house. That was the day I stopped pretending. It had been less than 48 hours since I'd left the envelope on her nightstand, but it already felt like I was living with a stranger. A woman I once knew, maybe. Someone whose laugh I could pick out in a crowd. Someone who used to write little notes in my lunch bag and leave the porch light on if I worked late. That person was gone. What was left wasn't someone I could fix or fight for. So I got up, grabbed my laptop, and opened a new browser tab. Divorce attorneys near me. I didn't even hesitate. It was a quiet declaration to myself. I'm done. This wasn't some emotional bluff to trigger guilt or start a conversation. I didn't want to salvage it. I wanted out with my sanity, my dignity, and whatever was left of my name. The first call I made was to a law firm downtown. The receptionist had a voice like she'd been through this 1,000 times before. Steady, neutral, no frills. What are you looking to accomplish? She asked. Peace, I said. I want peace, and I want it clean. She transferred me to a senior associate named Daniel Knox. He sounded young, sharp, and efficient. I told him what I knew. The photos, the videos, the engraved wedding band. He didn't gasp or express sympathy. He just said, "We'll handle it." Within the hour, he emailed me a checklist of things to gather. Financial records, property documents, bank account access, insurance info, tax returns, and any proof of infidelity. I already had the most damning piece, photographic evidence of Layla with the other man, dates and locations included. It was strange. Seeing everything laid out like that, like we were preparing a report for the end of a company, not a marriage. I spent the rest of that Sunday going room to room with a quiet sense of purpose. I logged into our joint bank account and froze it. Then I moved half the balance into an account under my name only. It wasn't spite, it was precaution. I had read enough stories of spouses draining funds before the papers were served. I changed the passwords to all shared digital accounts, Netflix, Hulu, utilities, the alarm system. It felt ridiculous, even petty at first, but each click of confirm new password gave me back a sliver of control. When Layla came home that evening, she didn't notice anything. She walked through the front door, humming softly, carrying a tote bag from some boutique grocery store like she hadn't just detonated our life. She made tea, put on music, folded laundry. She never asked what I'd done all day. She didn't even ask where I'd slept. It wasn't silence between us anymore, it was vacancy. As if we were living parallel lives with no intention of intersecting. I kept my plans to myself. Monday morning, I got the call from Daniel. The papers were ready. He asked if I wanted to serve them through a courier or hand-deliver them myself. I opted for the professional route. Clean. Official. No room for her to twist the narrative into some melodramatic confrontation. She'll probably lawyer up within the week, Daniel said. But you're protected. This is airtight. That night, I told her. I've filed, I said, standing at the foot of the staircase as she walked out of the bathroom in a robe I didn't recognize. She froze mid-step. What? I'm divorcing you. The papers will be delivered tomorrow. Her face didn't crumble. She didn't burst into tears. She just stared at me like I'd said I was switching cell phone providers. You're serious? I nodded. Very. She crossed her arms. That's a pretty cold way to go about this. I tilted my head. Says the woman who handed my ring to someone else. She looked away. It's not that simple. No, I said. It's exactly that simple. She didn't argue. She just stood there in silence, watching me like she was trying to decide whether or not to respond. In the end, she said nothing. The next morning, she was still in the house. Still brushing her teeth, still making coffee. I watched her from the doorway, half expecting some kind of outburst. Instead, she poured herself a mug and asked if I needed any. I declined. She moved through the house like it was still hers. She played music from her phone, watered the plant in the entryway, left her shoes in the hallway. If anything, she seemed more relaxed, like a guest overstaying her welcome on purpose just to see what she could get away with. The audacity of it all was almost impressive. When the summons finally arrived, she found it on the kitchen counter. I'd already signed. I'd already notified my lawyer. It was her move now. For the first time, her composure cracked. She picked up the envelope, scanned the top page, and looked up at me. You really did it. I didn't answer. You actually went through with it. Still, I said nothing. My silence wasn't out of malice, it was survival. There was nothing left to explain, nothing to clarify. She had taken what we had and handed it to someone else. All I did was let her keep it. She leaned against the counter and stared at me, searching for something in my face. Regret, maybe? Softness. A crack she could pry open. She didn't find one. Andrew, she said, quieter now. Don't you want to talk about this? We're past talking. I made a mistake. No, I said. You made a series of choices. You had opportunity after opportunity to stop. To tell me. To come clean. Her voice broke slightly. He's gone. I blinked. What? He's married too, she said. I ended it. It's been over for a while now. That was supposed to be comforting. It wasn't. You gave him my ring, I said, the words falling like stones. You wore it for him. You let him wear it. That's not something you get to walk back. She swallowed hard. Her posture shifted. Her voice wavered. You're really not going to give us a chance? I laughed short and bitter. You've had all the chances. I walked out before she could say anything else. I didn't want to hear more of her carefully timed remorse or selective regrets. Her version of guilt was always tailored, clean, quiet, just enough to make her feel better without offering any real accountability. I started packing her things that evening. Not in a rage, not with dramatic flair. Just methodically. Sweaters into boxes. Skincare into bins. Jewelry into velvet pouches. I didn't break anything. I didn't keep anything. I put everything in the garage. And then I changed the code on the front door. That night, for the first time in months, I slept in the master bedroom again. Alone. And peaceful. Not because the house was quiet, but because I was.